Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Herr Christ der eine Gottessohn, which translates to Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God. This is a pretty straightforward chorale. This is another one of those chorales that has instrumental interludes, so I omitted them. We're only looking at the vocal writing, so if you're looking for a complete analysis, I know that I just claimed that this is my complete analysis of all of Bach's chorale harmonizations, but it's only the chorales, not the instrumental writing, so we're only looking at the vocal portion. If you want to look at an analysis of the instrumental and vocal portion, you're going to have to find that elsewhere. But we're going to be looking at the chorale portion today. 2 flats in the key signature. We start on B flat major. We end on B flat major. I reckon we're in the key of B flat. We start off on this B flat major triad, which is our tonic, passing 7th in the bass, and then we have G, D, G, and B flat. And I think you can make the argument that the modulation happens as early as this G minor chord, but this feels like a 6-5-1 progression in the key of B flat, so I don't think the modulation happens until closer to the E natural here in the bass. So when all the voices move, typically that means we have a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm. In this case we do. We have an F major triad over A, C, F, and C, which is our 5-6 chord, and then we go to B flat major, B flat, F, and D, which is our tonic triad, and where I believe we cadence or we modulate to the key of G minor, it is now our mediant. This G is an anticipation, and then we have E natural, B flat, G, and C. That is C7 over E, which is a harmonization of the melodic minor scale. That's 4-6-5, and then we have some passing tones in the lower voices, as well as an anticipation in the alto, which spells out D, F sharp, A, and C over F sharp. That's D7 over F sharp, which is 5-6-5. So 4-6-5, 5-6-5. We would expect that to go to 1, which it does. G, G, D, and B flat, which is our tonic triad. This B flat's a chord tone, this G is a chord tone, so we don't need to mark those. We then have C, C, G, and A. That's implying like an A minor 7 flat 5, because we do get the E flat later on here. So this is a 2-6-5 chord. Bach loves 2-6-5 chords. We then have D major, D, A, F sharp, and A, which is our dominant triad, our 5. And then we would expect that to go to 1, G, D, G, and G. So interestingly, we cadence on a thirdless triad. We see this from time to time. Bach does cadence on an open 5th. I would imagine, though, because there are instruments that are also playing simultaneously, there probably is an instrument that's playing the third, but it's interesting because if this chorale were to stand on its own, why would there not be a B flat in here? Just curious, I don't know why. The tenor, I think, very easily could have been a B flat. Regardless, that's neither here nor there anymore, just something to ponder over. We then have a phrase that ends in a perfect authentic cadence in B flat, so we're looking for a point to modulate, and I think we can modulate as early as this G minor chord right here, but I don't really have any reason to believe that we have modulated yet, because this G major chord could be analyzed in either B flat major or G minor. I chose to analyze it in G minor because tonicizing the 4, which is what G major is the dominant of in a G minor context, makes me feel like this might just wrap around back to another G minor cadence, like 5-4, 4-5-1, for example, but this C minor ends up getting recontextualized. I think this C minor is our pivot point. It also happens right before the F natural, which would be one of the telltale signs that we're moving to the key of B flat just by first glance. So G, B, G, and D, that is a secondary dominant like I just discussed. That would be 5-4. That goes to 4, C minor, C, C, G, and E flat with a passing 7th in the bass. I think this C minor chord is also our supertonic in the key of B flat major. That takes us to F major over A, C, F, and C. That is our 5 chord in first inversion. And then we go to B flat, B flat, B flat, F, and D, which is our tonic triad. This G in the alto is an anticipation. We have E flat, B flat, G, and C. That's C minor, 7 over E, which is 2, 6, 5. We know that Bach loves those. Then we have a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm here. We have F, A, F, and C. That's another 5 chord, F major in root position. And then we have B flat major, B flat, D, F, and B flat, which is our tonic triad. Okay, looking ahead, we have a half cadence in the key of B flat, and I think we stay in the key of B flat for the entirety of this phrase. There might be an argument that we do briefly visit G minor, but there is no dominant, so I think G just gets a little bit of attention. Just because he starts the cycle of falling fifths. We have a little like a falling fifth sequence going on here, and it starts on 6 rather than going through the full motions of 1 going to 4 going to 7. We just go from 1 to 6 and then follow the sequence. So we have another B flat major chord here, B flat, D, F, and B flat with a passing 7th in the bass and another passing tone in the melody. We then have G, D, B flat, and D. There's our 6th chord, G minor, with a passing tone in the bass, as well as another one in the alto. We then have B flat, D, G, and D. That's another G minor triad, but in first inversion, so we'll just change the figured bass to reflect that. And the chord gets turned back into root position, kind of. I'm actually not going to mark that. I marked that in my notes, but now looking at it, this is the only third in the chord, so when we skip down to this G, it's kind of like root position, but we don't have another B flat, so this would just be another open 5th, which is just like another one of these anomalies here that we cadenced on. So typically we would expect a fully voiced triad. If there were a second third in this voicing and this G replaced one of them, I would mark it. In this case, I'm not. Okay, then we go to C, A, G, and E. That is C, C, G, and E. Sorry, there's no A here. C, C, G, and E. That's C minor in root position in the key of B flat major. That's our 2 chord with a passing 7th in the bass. We then go to A, C, F, and C. That is F major over A. Lots of first inversion 5 chords in this chorale. That's 5, 6, and we would expect that to go to 1, which it does. We have D, D, F, and F, which is interesting because it does not. Sorry, I said that it does. It does not. I misread this as a B because I'm getting confused between going from treble to bass clef. But no, this is D minor, or it could be a rootless B flat chord. But we have a bit of a deceptive progression because D, D, F, and F. That would technically be implying a 3 chord, which is minor. It's our mediant. Then we have a 1/6 chord, or you could call this a 1/6 chord without the root too. I think they're both valid analyses, but I think 3 is a little bit more accurate because there is no root, and it's unlikely that in a 4-voice chorale we get a rootless triad. I think we might have seen like 1 or 2 where you could justify why there would be no root there, but in the vast majority of cases, if there's no root and you're trying to make the argument that the triad is missing the root, it's probably the other possible analysis, which in this case is D minor. So a bit of a deceptive progression here. We then go to D, C, F, and E. Probably the most interesting part of this chorale. D, C, F, and E. Depending on how you look at this, I think because this is a half cadence, we're looking for some type of predominant chord. So if we spell the chord literally with all of the notes that occur on the downbeat, D, F, and C could be like a 3 chord, like a 3/7. F, C, and E flat could be like a 5/7 chord. C, E flat could imply like a 2 chord. But I think ultimately what ends up happening is it's really this E flat, this B flat, this G, and this D that are our those are our chord tones, and we have a series of accented, not necessarily non-chord tones in every case. This C is an accented non-chord tone, this F is an accented non-chord tone, but this D and this E flat, those are both chord tones. They just don't happen on the beat that the chord resolves. So I think this D and this E flat, these are our outer voices, and the inner voices fully contextualize it as a 4/7 chord, E flat major 7. And then we cadence on F, 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 A, and C, which is our dominant. This is a really interesting thing. Typically, like I said, when we have four voices moving off of the harmonic rhythm, it's typically a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm, but here we have four voices that are all moving in tandem, and we don't get a chord on the downbeat. Sometimes this happens, but it's much more common for us to see four voices that are moving all at the same time to consist of two chords. Like it's a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm. We're seeing the chord progression occur over eighth notes rather than quarter notes. But here we have just counterpoint, like first species counterpoint, where all the voices have the same rhythm. Okay, regardless, we have a perfect authentic cadence at the end of the next phrase in the key of G minor. It's very similar to the first phrase of the chorale. We have another F major chord, F, A, F, and F. It's incomplete, but still an F major chord. And that takes us to B flat, B flat, B flat, F, and D, which is our tonic triad, passing seventh in the bass. This G is a non-chord tone, this A is a non-chord tone, and then we get G major, G, B flat, and D. Sorry, G minor, not G major. That's our sixth chord. I also think it is our point in which we modulate to the key of G minor. So it is now our tonic. We have a passing seventh in the bass, and then we see a similar figure that we had in the beginning of the chorale, E, C, B flat, E, C, B flat, and C. That's like an incomplete C7 chord, no fifth, but regardless, we'll write 6-5 in there as the figured bass to signify the fact that the chord is in first inversion. We then have an anticipation in the tenor, an anticipation in the alto, and a passing tone in the bass. When you fully voice the chord or spell the chord, you have D, F sharp, A, and C. That's D7 over F sharp. That's a 5-6-5 chord. And then we go to G minor, G, D, A, and B flat. But this A is an accented non-chord tone, or like a 9/8 suspension over the bass. It still implies a tonic triad though, because that resolves down, and we still have a viable triad, G, 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 and B flat. Okay, looking ahead, we have our cadence. We have C, C, G, and A, which is implying A minor 7 flat 5, because we get that E flat again. This is very copy-paste. I think it's the exact same cadence that we had at the end of the first phrase, just some slight variation in the middle of the chord progression. We then have D, A, F sharp, and A, which is D major, another 5 chord, and then we cadence on G minor, G, B flat, G, and G. In this case, we do have the B flat, we don't have the D, so this is an incomplete triad still, but the B flat tells us the quality of the triad as opposed to this open fifth right here, where we can infer that the triad is minor because of the context in which the chord was prepared beforehand, but here we have the fully voiced triad. Okay, looking ahead, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B flat. We're looking for a point in which we modulate, and I think it's pretty quick. I think we modulate in and around the beginning of the first complete measure of the phrase. It's very similar to the first phrase that we actually have here at the beginning of the chorale. We start off with G major, which, as we discussed earlier, is 5 of 4. It's the dominant of C, and then we get C minor, C, C, G, and E flat, which is our 4 chord, passing 7th in the bass. And then I think this 4 chord is also our 2 chord in the key of B flat major. That goes to 5, A, C, F, and C, which is F major in first inversion in this case. And then we go to B flat major, B flat, F, and D, which is our tonic triad. We have an anticipation in the alto and kind of like this arpeggiation figure going on in the bass, but this G is still a non-chord tone. And if we look at the voices that move in conjunction with the voices that stay still, we have G, B flat, G, and D. That's kind of like a 6 chord in passing. So I'll mark it, why not? 1 going to 6 is a relatively normative progression. As far as chords that are adjacent to one another, 4 and 2, 4 going to 2 specifically, and 1 going to 6, I would say are the most, did I say adjacent? I didn't mean adjacent, I meant chords that are a third apart. Chords that are a third apart, 1 to 6 and 4 to 2 are probably the most common that I can think of. Sometimes 5 going to 3, but 1 going to 6 is pretty common, like we see at the beginning of the chorale sometimes, and also right here. We then have E flat, B flat, G, and C. That's C minor 7 over E flat. It's a 2-6-5 chord. We know that Bach loves his 2-6-5 chords. We have A, F, F, and C. That's F major in root position, which is our 5 chord, setting us up for our perfect authentic cadence. B flat, D, F, and B flat, which is our tonic triad. And that's today's analysis. A relatively short chorale, made even shorter by the fact that I omitted the instrumental interludes. As far as the future of the channel is concerned, I think I'm going to analyze some instrumental music once I finish the chorales, but because there are so many chorales ahead of me, that's something that's going to not see any light until much, much further into the future. Definitely next year, probably around this time, maybe a little bit earlier in the year. But regardless, very beautiful chorale. A couple of interesting quirks, like the thirdless cadential chord here, and this interesting kind of false subdivision of the harmonic rhythm where all the voices are moving at the same time, but we don't get two distinct chords, which we would typically expect of a figure that involves all the voices moving in eighth notes across the bar. But regardless, fairly straightforward to analyze, fairly functional, pretty straightforward. But on that note, if you're interested in following me along on the journey to analyze all of the chorale harmonizations, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification icon. I upload once a day, so you will get notified of when I upload and drop my next video. I'm going through all the chorale harmonizations like I mentioned at the beginning of the video and just a couple seconds ago. So if you're interested in getting a daily dose of Bach or a daily dose of analysis, or both, you're in the right place. I would love to have you on some of my later videos or engage with some of my later videos. But that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.